To all my viewers, family, and friends, Happy New Year. And to show the strength of my bond with all of you, today's Meta Monday features Agumon Bond of Bravery. This deck utilizes several new tools and cheeky forms of removal and aggro. Per the usual, I'll be covering the card by card, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the combos. This deck runs 4 level 2s, 13 level 3s, 10 level 4s, 7 level 5s, 4 level 6s, 3 level 7s, 7 option cards, and 6 tamers. For level 2s, I am strictly running BT9 Coromon. This Digimon provides a simple DP buff of 1000 DP on your turn. While you could run BT5 Coromon, the reasoning for this DP buff is I want to buff my Digimon as much as possible to survive security checks. Card draw isn't as relevant in this list, considering you now have EX1 Agumon that can now find Agumon in some of your ties, while BT12 Agumon can dig deep and find a lot of your combo pieces. For your level 3s, I run strictly Agumons and Agumon X. Agumon X is primarily another card to help with finding more pieces, and while you don't find X antibody in this particular build, you do add a potential Greymon Digimon and another Digivolution source for your Greymon X effect. As for Agumons, you run 4 of the BT12 for finding your Greymons and Tai Kamiyas. In particular, you'll want to find your Skull Greymons as they aren't red and are bottom decked by pretty much everything else. The last 4 of in this deck goes to the newest BT14 Agumon for its ability to go into a Greymon Digimon for free if you have Tai Kamiya in play. As a result, you can even easily climb into Skull Greymon off 2 memory assuming you have BT6 Tai Kamiya out. And lastly, 1 EX1 Agumon for its inheritable when attacking effect that adds a Digimon with Agumon or Tai Kamiya in its name to your hand. Simple and sweet. For your Greymons though, you're running the standard lineup with other tech choices here and there, along with a combo I mentioned in my short. Greymon X is arguably the most busted Greymon, due to the fact that in combination with your Skull Greymons, you can protect from their end of attack effects that delete, or their when Digi-evolving effects to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. Because you run Agumon X's, this is another avenue for protection. But for the remaining Greymons, I run 2 to play Tai Kamiyas for free, 2 for the memory gain back if I Digivolve into it from a Digimon with Agumon and its sources, and 2 from EX1 for playing my 3-cost Tai Kamiyas. Substitution wise, you could omit 1 BT12 Greymon for an Agunimon, but I honestly found myself closing games out extremely quick due to EX1 Skull Greymon's aggression. Which for my level 5s, it's strictly Skull Greymons. No Metal Greymons, just the big bony boy himself. EX1 has a high DP threshold of 8000 DP, meaning with Coromon, BT14 Agumon, and BT5 Greymon, this Digimon is 13,000 DP. Very few Digimon have this DP threshold even in the security, and with protection effects from bounce to hand or deck and deletion based effects if you have Greymon X, this is where your primary aggro lies. As for control, BT14 Skull Greymon can Digivolve from any color Greymon, and when you Digivolve, you may trash a card to delete one of your lowest level Digimon and delete one of your opponent's lowest level Digimon. If both you and your opponent only have 1 Digimon in play, you can clear the board. On deletion, both these Digimon play Agumon, EX1 suspended, while BT14 can play 1 and give it rush if you have a tamer with Tai Kamiya in its name in play. In some instances, I've been able to have enough memory to go into an Agubond the same turn per game. For your level 6s, it's time to jump into War Greymons that can Digivolve from any level 5 Greymon. Because War Greymon Ace does not require a specific color to Digivolve into, this Digimon not only assists with clearing 2 security, but assisting as a blocker in the case I need to after using Agumon Bond of Bravery. Though it is an Ace Digimon, you could drop these and instead utilize blocker giver Tai Kamiya from BT12. My only problem with this is this gives you more focus on defense and less on situational change like War Greymon Ace. As for the last War Greymon, it's the variant from BT14. This War Greymon is great in conjunction with BT14 Skull Greymon, as if an Agumon is played from its on deletion effect, it's given rush with a Tai Kamiya present, and you can then have War Greymon that rushes, raids, security attack +1, and pierces. A lot of utility value for controlling the board. As for your level 7s, Agumon Bond of Bravery is the only level 7 I run in this build. A shame that Bond of Bravery can't Digivolve from War Greymon, as it could ease the color swap from Ace. But at the same time, you can warp into this from an Agumon if you have BT6 Tai Kamiya in play. Most of the time, you're utilizing the EX1 Skull Greymon for aggressive checks, and after attacking twice, an Agumon Bond of Bravery can simply end the game. For option cards, this deck runs 2 copies of Crimson Blaze to prevent your opponent from playing Digimon by card effects. Wider building boards like D-Brigade can be problematic, as sometimes your removal just spawns an extra body. Red Memory Boost trumps training options in this build because of the fact that you need 3 memory to combo off of Agumon Bond of Bravery. Offense training can't assist with this, and Double Gaia Force for generic removal. For other decks in the format, you might utilize option cards like Happy Bullet Showering, or even Trident Gaia if your local goes heavy into Bloom Lordmon, and Quartzmon is problematic. And finally, 6 Tamers in the form of 2 copies of Starter Deck 15 Taikamiya, and 4 copies of BT6 Taikamiya. Honestly, you need a memory fixer for this deck, and since there are 3 different Taikamiyas that meet this requirement, you can select from any of these. But Starter Deck 15 was the pick, mainly because the others don't necessarily have effects that proc due to color requirements. Not to mention, War Greymon Ace has come in handy to draw cards and DP buffs to stay alive. While BT6 Taikamiya assists in card draw and a memory gain when you promote a Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name from the Rays. Strength and weakness wise, this deck is very flexible in different matchups. Some hands you'll mulligan purely for a more offensive route or control strategy. But weakness wise, Agumon Bond of Bravery is a weakness in itself in that you trash your own security when you warp into it. As a result, if you miscalculate, you could be ending the game for yourself quicker than you anticipated. Additional weaknesses would be DP reduction, sending cards to the security, de-Digivolve, and the biggest threat of them all, Source Stripping. Card effects like Zudomon Ace can render your protection effects null. Luckily, if you do lose the protection in some instances and your Digimon is deleted, you can potentially counter your opponent's Ace Digimon with a newly played Rush Agumon in a BT14 War Greymon, assuming they have a level 6 Digimon in play. While true, EX5 offers no cards for this deck, I would argue that this is a fun deck to throw players off in locals, tournaments, and competitive events. Is it the best? Not necessarily. But like all card games, there is a certain amount of threshold that can swing the game in your favor or ruin your win streak. Combo-wise, your ultimate goal is to get into EX1 Skull Greymon as soon as possible, climbing from Koromon to preferentially BT14 Agumon before passing with a Taikamiya of some sort. Regardless, if your memory is set to 3, you might be able to climb into Skull Greymon that same turn, and begin checking 2 security at a time with a DP threshold of at minimum 11,000 DP. But if you had BT12 Agumon in the sources, this means that if your Skull Greymon gets deleted, you'll be able to play this Digimon and then search for more components and ties. Test games, there were times even where I had to pass the turn on an unsuspended BT14 Skull Greymon, pitch a card from hand to delete one of my opponent's Digimon, and then maintain this Digimon by trashing 2 sources with Greymon X's effect. But if my opponent attacked, a War Greymon Ace might just be waiting in the wings to block. Generally speaking, what are your thoughts on this variant of Agumon Bond of Bravery, and do you like the elements of Greymon X in combination with Skull Greymons? Let me know your thoughts as I start looking into more loop-heavy decks. Because with restrictions, it's time to see what else can be abused before it's gone. This is Digi-Panda, logging out.